Hello, everyone, and how are all of you doing? We are back. We are back for another episode of Rob's Real and Ridiculous Podcast. It is episode number 44 for Man Cave Studios, Valley of the Sun. A very cold and frigid Valley of the Sun, mind you. It is pretty damn cold out here, and I know a lot of you in the East Coast are probably laughing at me right now, saying how cold it is out here. But I will tell you this: after living out here for a better part of my life now, I will say that your blood definitely thins out, and it feels cold. It just does. The mornings are in the 40s when I take my daughter to school. The nights are cold. I like it, though. It feels like great holiday weather. I'm definitely enjoying it. I can still pull off the shorts and the flip-flops, but I got to have the hoodie going on when I leave the house to do drop-off. So anyway, how was your week? How are you doing? How are you feeling with the numbers surging around the country with COVID? I hope everybody's staying safe, following the rules, following the guidelines so we can finally get to the other side. I mean, we need to get to the other side of this, and I know we will. And the other side, meaning the first part of 2021. Let's fight through the winter. Let's battle it through, and let's get the vaccines going. And many of us that will probably fall into that tier 3 category, which will probably be late spring or mid-spring. And those that are in desperate need, or in big need, I should say, will get the first round along with our frontline health workers, and then it'll go on to the second tier. So anyways, let's just hope this continues to move in the right direction and we can get back to some normalcy as we go into the second half of 2021. So a fantastic interview with Mark Cuban on the Jim Rome Show last week. And he felt very confident that April, May, we're going to just be like, wow, we're alive again. We're all out. We're having a good time. We're enjoying. Going to start seeing fans at the games. And as we start rolling into the summer, we should all be in a much better place, So fingers crossed on that. As I mentioned, through the midsummer, I had just a gut feeling that the flu numbers would be down for the reasons that how we're containing and quarantining ourselves against COVID. So the hand washing, the masks, now that everybody's kind of aligned and doing the same thing, staying sanitized, I figured probably the flu virus would be a lot lighter this year than previous years. As of yesterday, it definitely is. Now, mind you, we're still in mid-December. We still got January, February, and probably into March, right? Before we know exactly what those results will look like, but fingers crossed, because we don't need to get the double whammy. We just don't need it. And a lot of stuff between the pandemic, the lockdowns, have created a lot of movement, a lot of moves from people, coming out of, I'm hearing a lot out of New York, but some big hitters left California to move to Houston. And many of you might already know Elon Musk moving his entire operation out to Houston, as is Hewlett Packard. So those are big moves because those companies are, they employ, thousands of employees, obviously. And to move their operations there, you just kind of that economy is going to take a big hit. And that's a state, man. And I love California. I mean, we vacation at Newport Beach every single summer. I love it, but they're taking a big hit over there. And so let's just hope that doesn't continue to happen. And they get just a little bit more open-minded to, allowing some of these small businesses to open and for people to get out a little bit more. So we'll see where that all goes. Man, I'll tell you, I'm going to start off this week with football. And what a football game last night. I will say the best game of the year for sure so far, with 3 left for regular season games. Probably the best football game I've watched in quite some time. The Browns and Ravens, and it was just a battle up and down. And I'll be honest with you, I pull for the Browns. I got some family and friends that live in Cleveland, and they've had a lot of heartache with that team. As everyone knows, they've had their ups and downs, and, thought they had a quarterback in Johnny Football way back when, who ended up just being a complete, screw up. But they got a good kid now in Baker Mayfield, in my opinion. And they also have a good set of receivers, good set of running backs. Good team. The defense needs to pick it up a little bit based on what I watched last night. But so did the Ravens. I mean, it was a high-scoring game. And just a tough. If you're a Cleveland Brown fan, I mean, it's tough. I've read some messages on Facebook earlier this morning, and Cleveland Browns like typical Browns. They're really not, but those are the games you want to win. I guess when you look at it, you went into a game against the Titans that you weren't expected to win on the road, and you came home with a good shot against the Ravens, who you haven't had good success against, and you had that game. You had that game right there for the taking. And I know the announcer said it, and I thought about it right away, and I looked to my wife. By the way, to my wife, Yovi, thanks again. I hope everybody enjoyed last week's show. We had a blast doing it. A lot of people said we had some good synergy going back and forth, and I thought she did a great job. So she'll be joining here periodically in and out and kind of keep me in check, if you will. But thanks again to my wife for joining the show last week. But I looked at her and I said, there's too much time on the clock. They needed to run another play or two. With a minute 3, I believe, a minute 4, far too much time for a good quarterback. Although he's still working on his passing game, he's still a threat. That guy is unbelievable. And for him to come out of the tunnel and throw that bomb to Hollywood Brown, that was exciting in itself. And for Cleveland to come back down and score, just too much time left on the clock. It's just too much time left. Poor clock, I will say. You can call it what you will, and I haven't heard anything on that yet. I've heard some analysts talk about it. I call it, poor clock management. I know you want to score when you have the option to score. You might not be able to just pick and choose what play you want that's going to score you a touchdown. I just wish there was less time. Is 30 seconds too much time? I think if there was 30 seconds, it would have been. But the guy, Tucker, he's my fantasy quarterback. He kicked a hell of a field goal. 55-yarder win the game. So kudos to both teams for providing the best, if not the best Monday night game of the year. It's also the best game of the year. Anybody I've talked to. So Browns will keep rocking and rolling for sure. Excuse me here. And is this now the Ravens team? We don't know what Ravens team is going to show up. Is it the Ravens team that looked like crap against my Patriots, or it's the Ravens team that looked as good as they did last night? Here's what I will say. Not to upset any Browns or Raven fans. I still think the team to knock off the Chiefs, who are still vulnerable, but I still will put my money on the Chiefs against the field. To me, it's the Bills. They're on both sides of the ball. They're probably the most consistent team, and but nowadays, a lot of analysts will say you got to build an offense, and these teams have good offenses now. So, excuse me, we will see what happens there. As we're also rolling towards the end of the season with 3 games left, I'm sure many of you are in the same place with your fantasy football leagues as we are with ours. I mentioned on previous shows, I can't believe where the season went, but we are 32 years into my fantasy football league. I've had Mikey G, I had Garvey the Boot Biggers on my show, I've had Nikki V. Many of us have been together all 32 years. Some are fairly new owners, like within the next 10 years, and we've had family come in and go out for various reasons and some close friends. But we've had one hell of a league. We're very proud of the 32 years that we've had. So I didn't make it this year. I got thrown into the toilet bowl is what we call it for the 4 that didn't make it out of the 10, and I lost my game to the Boots. So I would have got a little bit of money, but I got nothing now. But to the 4 that have moved on, personal injury, the Scum Buckets, to Live Rust, and to the Drids. Now, the Drids and the Scum Buckets have won Super Bowls, multiple. Rust, who's fairly, I would not say fairly new to the league, he hasn't been with us all 32 years, my cousin Tony P. He has yet to win. But the one guy I am pulling for, and it's nothing against the others, is going to be personal injury, Nicky V's team. He's been in the league since day one. Since day one. 32 years and has not won it. So I'm reaching out and saying, I'm putting my money on Nicky V. Pulling for you, buddy. So let's see what you can do here over the next 2 weeks as the semifinal, Final Fours this weekend, followed by their Super Bowl the following weekend. So good luck to everyone, too, by the way. Good luck to everyone. I had to get that in there. What did you think about the games, last weekend? I thought it was a good slate of games. The one thing I will have to say this year that I've been just a little, the product's been great. The product's been great. What I will say is just a little disappointed on the big games, right? The games that have been hyped up, right, to be a really good game, right? And I looked at, Eagles Saints was not in that category for me. Pay close attention to because, with Jalen Hurts coming in and Taysom Hill still playing quarterback for the Saints. I never expected, but you know what? Any given Sunday, as we know, expect the unexpected because it has happened in the NFL, and it has probably happened more often than not this year because of the way the seasons had been played, right? There's been no preseason, very little training camp time, if any at all. A lot of times been on virtual meetings. There's been very little physical practicing, so it's affected some teams more than others. At the end of the day, it's no excuses. Everybody's kind of bound by the same rules. So I just think Sean Payton is kind of like, he is a lot like Bill Belichick. I say like, they're very close in terms of friendship. But maybe just trying to get a little too cute and a little too smart for his own good with Taysom Hill. Use the kid for what he is. He's a running quarterback. You can't turn this kid into a pocket passer. He's just not that type of kid. He's a physical specimen. He's a great athlete. Don't turn somebody into something they're not, especially when you're just trying to get the bridge over to Drew Brees. Or maybe in the back of his head, he's trying to sell the fact that this kid's going to be marketable, and maybe he will be for some team. I don't think he's a starting quarterback. I love the kid, but I don't think he's a starting quarterback. But maybe he's trying to, get his branding and marketability out there for trade potential next year. Who knows? And that's the only thing I can think of. Excuse me. With Jameis Winston on the bench. So that's the only thing I could come up with. Because for me, this is, win or lose, I think this is definitely it for Brees. He's got that contract. I believe it's with NBC, but he's got a network contract to jump into the booth next year. So kudos to the Eagles, the mess that's been the Eagles this year. Calling for Doug Peterson's head, and Wentz has been down. Look, guys, here's what I'll tell you. This has been a tough year, whether you're in the college. I mentioned it weeks ago with Ashley, when we're talking about the Texas coach who they are keeping. This is a tough year to fire anyone. Unless you've had a long run of non-success with one particular coach, then maybe this is the time to pull the trigger, unless you're waiting to see what they did this year. And if you're waiting to see what a coach did this year and they didn't deliver, I probably would just throw this one away unless you have an option, to get somebody that you would like to coach your franchise as things open up. So I would say stay calm, stay consistent. They usually do in that organization in Philly. Don't fire anybody. I'm not sure what's going on with Wentz. I think a lot of it's mental. You probably heard a lot of analysts say the same thing, but you got to just kind of stand pat there. Sunday night game was the Bills and the Steelers, and the Bills are just going above and beyond where I thought they would be this year. Now, my beginning of the season picks. I picked the Bills to win a division, but I was just a little bit too hesitant on the quarterback play, which has been, by the way, excellent. The kid has been really, really good. I think he's number one in third down efficiency. That was the one, and not just me. If you watch any show that's covering the NFL on any network, they're all skeptical on his, not on his skill set, but on his ability to turn the ball over, making poor decisions during tough times. And I think a lot of these quarterbacks need to watch Tom Brady in his day, Peyton Manning in his day, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers to some extent, who's a little bit more of a sharpshooter, but save your play for the next down. Save it for another down. Save it for another series. Throw the ball out and then tuck that ball if you're going to run, because he's a fantastic athlete. McDermott's done a great job with that Bills team, and I think they're going to be very formidable for teams in the playoffs, and they're working their way into that second seed. The Steelers, fool's gold, just like New England last year. They're better than New England was last year in terms of team, overall team, because I had no confidence in New England last year, regardless of them having their first 10 or 11 undefeated or whatever it was before they started coming apart at the seams. This Steeler team will get it together, but they're definitely not a team that I could see that's going to go beat the Chiefs. They're not the same old physical Steelers team. They're a little bit more finesse, which is a surprise to everyone. But I like the Bills. I'm not too sure about Baltimore. I think Baltimore has the swag and the coach to beat Kansas City, as does Tennessee. So we'll see where that goes. Baltimore's always been one of those teams that travel well. That's a team you do not want to come into your building. Trust me, as a Patriot fan. They have got us more often than not. Jim Harbaugh does a fantastic job with that team. If they were to get in the playoffs at 9-7, it's scared the hell out of me. You throw the records out the window because you don't know what they're going to bring. So there's some thoughts on the Bills. Watch out for the Bills though. They're for real, and they've got. Look, that pickup of Diggs was phenomenal. I wanted Diggs last year with the Patriots, and he was lobbying to come to New England, and I have no idea what went on there between Bill and Brady, but it didn't happen, and he's in a better place. He does not want to be in New England right now. Colts and Raiders, the Colts are still, I picked the Colts to win that division beginning of the season. They've had some ups and downs this year, but so hasn't a lot of other good teams. The key to this team is P. Rivers holding the ball, keeping the ball to their own team. Don't turn the ball over to the other team. He's done a better job over it the last few games, and they look solid. The Raiders, all the way back in the day, even I know my cousin Mikey G, we're always big Raiders fans. When I came into Fantasy League, my team name was Rob's Raiders before I changed it to the Bada Bings. And I'm always a Raiders fan. I just like the mystique of the Raiders, the toughness of the Raiders. But I'll tell you what, they're doing this year what they did last year. They're winning a lot of good games up front, and then they're just kind of falling apart at the seams towards the end. And if you remember last year, they did the same thing. So they need to tighten some things up. They're still in the race, but it's going to be a tough road for them to close this thing out. Chiefs-Dolphins, how about that game? B-Flow, Brian Flores came from the New England Patriots. When he got that Miami job, I'm like, he's going to flip the program. He's just a guy that it's not like I know him. There's just guys that are going to go in and do a really good job with an organization. Unlike Matt Patricia, B-Flow seemed like a guy that's got it down. He's going to take a lot of learnings from Bill and then use the rest of his skill set to coach a team versus a Matt Patricia thinking he's the cock of the walk walking into Detroit with already a shitty culture, and now you're making it even a worse culture, and players don't want to play for you. The difference between the two teams is Patricia had them training hard like the Patriots, which they were all miserable doing it, running hills, doing this, doing that. Brian Flores is doing the same thing. Players love him because they have direction. They know where the team's going. He has a game plan. And they're all on board in Miami. And the kid, Tua, looks good. He looks good. Man, there's something, I think we're all maybe all the same way. To see a lefty out there throw the ball, but man, he's got a zip. He's got a zip to that ball. He's got an alpha dog mentality, which I love. He's a good physical athlete. Fingers crossed the kid stays healthy. I think Miami with that defense is going places. Now, they showed a few holes later in the game, but again, who isn't scoring over 30 points a game now? It really is all about building offenses. I heard that from a few analysts now. Don't go into the draft to build your D. Go into building, because these offenses now are outdoing really great defenses most of the times. Now, we know when it goes into the winter months, you need to be prepared to have a top defense, right? If the cold months come, you need to have a running game, and you definitely want to have a good defense. But you have to have that offense that when you're down by 2-3 scores. If you're Kansas City, I'm not even worried about it. They can do that easily. Just stop the other team and go down like Mahomes does. And he had a terrible game. It was a bad game for him. 3 picks. Teams are figuring him out, but he's going to adapt and he's going to morph into what he is. I mean, he's the kid's a stud. He's the best quarterback in football. It's not even close, in my opinion. I know Aaron Rodgers on the other side is very worthy of the MVP this year, and kudos to him. But Pat Mahomes is tremendous, and even on a bad game, he's going to pull a rabbit out of his hat and pull wins out. And that's just that team. I think they've had the most wins under 6 points in the league this year. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's damn close if I'm off. So look out for the Dolphins too. Patriots get the Dolphins this week. My early prediction on that game is not so good for New England. They don't have luck in Miami to begin with, and then they're playing a much better team. And Bill has struggled against ex-coaches. He has struggled. So, to an extent. I mean, he's Vrabel's not an ex-coach, but Vrabel played for the team, so you could basically call him that. So we'll see what happens. He's had some struggles in the past because these teams understand from the system what they're going to do defensively, even if it's ex-coordinators or assistant coordinators. I think Miami's going to be tough. But watch them go in and win, and I'm like, okay, now I'm going to get excited again because now Miami would have two losses in a row, and then Miami still has to play the Raiders and the Bills. And the Bills are going to play out their last game of the season. I'd be shocked if everything's decided for seeding by then, especially with the number 1 seed, only the number 1 seed, getting the bye this year out of the 7. So it'll make things interesting. My Pats aren't going anywhere, so I'm not going to try and talk myself into it. Cardinals, solid game. Solid game after 2 weeks of struggles. A game they should have won in New England, but they didn't. A lot of mistakes, a lot of penalties in that game. That's the only reason why they lost to the Patriots. They just struggle against the Rams, and I know they have them again in 3 weeks. They've got the Eagles, the Niners, and the Rams, all winnable games. At least 2 out of 3. Puts them in a good spot. Maybe that Rams game is the game that gets them over the hump if they're on their way into the playoffs and gives them that extra zip, that extra confidence. They played a lot better than I thought last week. I'll be honest with you. One of my upset specials last week was the Giants over the Cardinals because Joe Judge has that team playing solid. I mean, he went in, he changed the culture of that organization. They love him. They respect him. I mean, here's a special teams coach for the Patriots going over there and just kind of taking over and having direction. There's no clown show there. The players respect him. They're playing hard for him. And he's going to flip that program. So a good call there. At least that's how it looks now. Flores is in year number 2. He's definitely on his way up. And then Joe Judge will need 2 seasons. But I got to give him credit. And at a year like this where COVID's factored in and all these other things that have gone on, I mean, kudos to him to step in. I mean, that's a big deal for a new head coach, right? That's a big deal to run a program for the first time in the NFL up against all the circumstances that have gone on this year. So kudos to him. The Giants are on the rise. Cards are in it. Keep playing good. Don't fire the coach. Don't get mad at the coach. Winning organizations are consistent organizations. Okay, you've got a great young quarterback. Okay, he's going to continue to grow. Okay, you've got great receivers. You've got a good little running game. Your defense is a little impacted this year without Chandler Jones, but it's still playing solid. Play better fundamental football without the penalties. That is a coaching thing, but I like the coach. I look at Sean McVay. It's taken him a few years. He got, he turned that program around from Fisher. Players liked him. Came in. Was a good communicator with the kids. Didn't come in like a know-it-all, but came in with a plan. Okay, and he got punched in the face by the Patriots in the Super Bowl. He learned from that. Last year he struggled, as a lot of teams do after a Super Bowl, win or lose. And then he rebounded this year. Sign of a really good coach. LaFleur looks like he's on his way. I had my doubts about LaFleur. So let's give Kingsbury the same amount of time to work into the program. Okay? Because I feel like he will. He's a likable coach. That doesn't mean because you like somebody, give them the job. He looks like he's definitely got the skill set he needs, but he's still young and he's still learning. He never coached a big program, not even in college. So let's just think about that. Nor has he come from a football pedigree or family like McVay. So he's been around. McVay's been around for a long time. McVay was working under Chucky back in the day as a kid. So we'll see what goes there. All right. Let's get to it. Well, you know what? Let me just talk just a little bit real quick here about what Ron Rivera is doing with the Redskins. Ron Rivera has done a hell of a job. A hell of a job. Talk about a piss-poor culture in Washington. A piss-poor owner. A donkey, if you will. His resilience, his resistance to changing the team name under a lot of scrutiny. Now it's the Washington football team. Okay, it's okay. It's been kind of, I guess, caught on. You wonder if they are eventually going to change it. With that all being said, he goes into there also fighting cancer to flip, an organization that most, because of the owner, not because of the history. The Redskins got a good history. They had years of winning championships, division titles, the old John Riggins, Joe Theismann days. They had some good teams there in Washington back in the day. Some others that are kind of escaping my mind right now. The Doug Williams days, what I was trying to get to. So they've had some. It's a good organization. It was a good organization. He went in there, and I think the owner's finally like stepping away, stay up in your box, if you will. And maybe this is a good thing that there hasn't been fans this year, because I don't even know how many owners are traveling to every game with their team and then getting involved a little bit, maybe less this year because of what's going on, depending on their own health situation. But Ronnie Rivers, man, Riverboat Ron, come on, man, great job. Always liked him. Thought he was a great coach, good guy, does a solid job, has a lot of respect for the players. Could probably be a little bit tougher at times, from what I hear down in Carolina, but the players love playing for him. He's done a great job in Washington. Watch out for them. And, of course, how can you not be happy for Alex Smith? Come on, man. Guy almost lost his leg and his life. So good job by Washington. They beat the Niners, who are just, unfortunately, they're just too many injuries this year. But they'll be back. They'll be back, and that is a very, very tough division now in the NFL, that NFC West. So let's get to it. Let's talk Bucs-Vikings. Vikings should have won that game. And it's not just me. I didn't think Tampa looked good at all Sunday. And I've watched now 2 days of programming since that game. Whether it's on ESPN, Fox, NFL Network, etc., local Boston feeds. Nobody here thinks that Tampa Bay looks good. And Brady's always good after the bye. So I think Brady's skill set has definitely diminished. But that's okay. That's okay, provided they have the right game plan for him. So it's taking both sides. And this is one of the big reasons why I was watching Eric Mangini on Colin Cowherd's show on Monday. Last week it was, actually, before they went into Sunday's game. And he said, Bill and Tom should have never divorced each other. They should have never separated. First of all, Bill didn't have a plan. It's obvious at quarterback. He totally botched that whole thing up. He better get his act together for next year, because I give him 1 year. And the Crafts are business owners, and very good ones at that, trust me. And if Bill can't continue to win, and Bill is still that same a-hole to the media and everybody else he is, nobody wants that guy in town, especially in Boston. You will not survive. You won't. But Bruce Arians, he's just not a coach. He's not. He thinks they played well Sunday. He's the only one. It's not just me. You watch any of these morning analyst guys, and they're all like, what did Marcus Spears, what is Bruce, what game did he watch on Sunday? Brady doesn't look good at all. The team has absolutely zero fluidity, zero synergy. If they're in which they'll probably get in, they're a one and done. That's how everybody, I feel the same way. So is it a wasted year? It's not a wasted year. I mean, there were some analysts that's like, well, they look loaded. Where's loaded get you? It doesn't mean you're going to win it all. It takes a couple years or two. I was just watching Aqib Talib earlier today. Was also on with Cowherd. He's now works for Fox as an analyst. He's going to cover the Eagles-Cardinals game this week. And he said, man, it takes a lot. It takes a lot. You got to work hard in the building. And I hear it with that team, and it's what's against everything Brady stands for is you got to put in the work. You got to put in watching tape time. You got to put in the work at practice. I mean, you just got to do it. And you get all those stars. You get all those weapons. Some may not be there next year either. I mean, Chris Godwin is on the market as a free agent. So you're not going to have them all. You got to figure it out. And Bruce Arians, to me, is not the guy to figure that out. So I think Tampa is in a lot of hurt. A lot of hurt. Tom had an interesting 10 days, too. Still has his mansion in Brooklyn, Mass. And the alarms went off in the mansion, the home, and found a homeless guy sleeping on the couch. So poor guy. I'm not sure. I wouldn't think Tom would press charges. I haven't heard anything after it, nor have I researched it. But the guy obviously got arrested for B&E. But hey, I guess if you're going to squat somewhere in the cold and need a place to stay, no better place than to pick out a nice mansion that Tom Brady owns. And then he goes out and buys himself on his bye week a 53-foot. It's not a yacht. It looks like a giant speedboat. I guess there's no sleeping quarters or kitchen area or anything like that. But it's a sweet boat. Viva. What is the name of that boat? Viva Avida, after his wife Giselle's company. So Brady's got a boat, so he's getting all his little toys down in Tampa. But Tommy, you got to be happy too, brother. You got to be happy, and you do not look happy in Tampa. And I think that's a decision he would rescind if he had the opportunity to do so. So there's some of my takes on football. And as we enter into the final 3 weeks of the season, we'll see who will emerge. Right now, my money on the AFC is going to be the Chiefs. My money in the NFC probably shouldn't change because it's because of Drew Brees. Right now, it's Green Bay, believe it or not. And Aaron Rodgers has that magic. And then you've got the Saints. To me, those are the only two teams that I think are going to do anything. Then you've got the Saints that can't get over to that bad luck hump, right? The last 2 years, right? Unfortunately for them, getting knocked out early in the playoffs and from tough calls, etc. So you could say they're due. I would say those are my 1 and 2. I don't see anybody else. I don't see Tampa. I don't see anybody coming to the NFC East. All these teams are going to have to travel and go on the road, regardless of fans or no fans. You're not in your own building. And for a while there, I thought Seattle. Seattle's just, they're too limited on defense. I thought the defense was going to step up, but you never know, though. I mean, once the playoffs come in, they got the pedigree. They've been there. They've done that. They got the coach that's been through it all. The Rams look tough. Can the Rams just pull a rabbit out of the hat? Can the kid not get happy feet at times? I mean, regardless of how good they looked, the Rams the last couple of weeks. Goff, I like the kid. I'm pulling for him, but he's not consistent. He can't read defenses that well. I mean, when the Pats played him, they didn't do anything to scare the kid at all. And he still, like the analysts say, he still has the happy feet. So we'll see what happens. So it's going to be really interesting. Really interesting stuff. Just going to flip over to the NBA, NHL, MLB real quick before I close out this week's show. But tweet me anything you have or anything you agree or disagree with to me at rwumble55. Please tweet me at rwumble55 on any of your football thoughts and some of the statements I made today regarding some of these teams and where I think they're at now and where they're going. NHL is getting prepared mid-January. Right now it's scheduled for January 13th. I don't know if that's official, 13th or 15th. I want to say it's the 13th. Some teams are looking to start the season in outdoor stadiums. I know the Bruins want to play at Fenway. They want to play outside, I think, because of what's going on right now. So we'll see what happens. It'll be exciting. I wish they were kicking it off New Year's Day. I think they did some poor planning because I'm happy to wait the NBA start now in another week. MLB, so they're finally, getting their head out of their rear end, and they're starting to plan out for next year as well, next season, and talking about how they're going to start flowing fans back into the games. But let's hope we can get there, right? I mean, late spring, early summer, boys of summer, get fans back in games, and when you get back to some normalcy, it's gonna be like a big New Year's Eve blowout. But MLB's got a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do. Talking to people over the weekend, and it's kind of like it's such a boring game, and they just not open to change in that league, and it's all to do with pitching. It's all to do with pitching. Starter doesn't go 8, 9 innings anymore like Pedro Martinez, Roger Clemens, Randy Johnson. Go down the list. Tom Glavine, John Smoltz. I'll go all the way down the list. Now you go 5, 6 innings as a starter. Starter, right? $40 million a year starter goes 5 to 6 innings. Now you bring in your relief, your middle relief, your setup relief, your right-handed pitcher for the righty batter, for the lefty batter. Then we get to the closer. I mean, it's nonsense, guys. A half inning lasts over a half hour. I mean, it's sick. It's insane. It puts everybody to sleep. It's dropping out. Soccer's going to catch up. It's just not a watchable product anymore. They really need to get their act together in Major League Baseball. And that isn't just me. Flip on MLB Network. You'll hear the same thing come out of their mouths as well. NBA, preseason has started. Kyrie has started as well, too, with his little whining, his little act, the Kyrie act. But a little over a week ago, he throws LeBron under the bus by saying he's finally got somebody he can go to as a closer for him. KD is now his closer because LeBron couldn't close. I mean, come on, dude. Give it up, man. You just sit back, you throw people under the bus, and then when they call you out on it, you say you didn't do it. See how you're attacking me? No, you're the one opening up the remarks, my dude. This guy is a nutcase. He's a nutcase. He thinks he's smarter than everybody else. I don't know of anyone. I hear this from a lot of people. When he spouts off, nobody knows what the hell he's saying. He's all over the board. But he thinks he's talking in high. He thinks he's very articulate and tries to throw in big words in places. It's kind of like, I don't. It doesn't even go. It doesn't even go. And then of course he did this whole little press thing we called the press. Bunch of pawns, right? The media is a bunch of pawns. I don't answer to pawns. Yeah, well, nobody wants to answer to you. You're a little punk. You're a good basketball player. Fun to watch. But you disrupt every organization wherever you go. And if anyone here thinks, I will be surprised. So I will call myself out on it if I'm wrong. If as this season goes on, that team doesn't start to implode over there because of Kyrie. Because he is not a team player. Not a team player. He wasn't in Cleveland. He wasn't in Boston. He wasn't for the short time he played last year in Jersey. And he won't be this year. And good luck to Steve Nash. Good luck. He might be the guy to do it. He might be the guy. Who knows? A point guard coaching a point guard. That is going to be interesting. And that is Kyrie. You can have him all day long. I am so glad he's out of Boston. So glad. So we'll talk about the other tool in the shed. That's James Harden. Another one. Another one who can't get along with anyone, right? So there's a wonder why here's a guy that plays ISO basketball his whole career because he's not a team player. If you were a team guy, you wouldn't take the ball, dribble it 10 times, and shoot it every time it goes in your hand. Prolific scorer, should be, because he doesn't give the goddamn ball to the other 4 players. Who can't rack up all those points? He hasn't won squat. He's not a winner. He never will win. Now he's pouting because he wants to get traded. Doesn't want to play with John Wall, one of the classiest NBA players in the league. John Wall doesn't want to play with John Wall. He wants to go to Philly now. I wouldn't take him for anything in Boston. I wouldn't trade him for the water boy. I mean, I wouldn't. I would not make it. I've never liked James Harden. People ask me why. I said, he just doesn't look like a winner to me. I don't like the way he carries himself. And I guess he's a big time partier, which that did surprise me. I had no idea it was some rapper's party over a week ago. And he loves all the gentleman clubs and puts on the big fur coats and the jewelry and everything else. And cool, good for you. I mean, go out and have fun. I'm not knocking him for doing that, other than the fact that he sat out camp doing that stuff. I came in contact with COVID. Now he's finally decided to come back. Do that stuff in the off season. I just thought he was a little bit more quiet, reserved guy. Even though again, I don't care for him. I don't care for him. Never have. Never will. He was big product out here playing for ASU, but not sold on the guy. And so far, I'm proven to be right. I don't see that guy ever winning an NBA championship. I don't. And I think any team he goes to, he will disrupt that team. And trust me, Kevin Durant, I didn't realize he was a nut job too. Crazy man, KD, who's sensitive. You can't say anything to him. Any guy that goes out to buy 5 burner phones so he can have arguments with the fans is definitely different. I'll leave it at that. But here's what I will tell you. Great team basketball player. Great team basketball player. Fitting great with Golden State. He did not go in and disrupt that locker room. I know him and Draymond butted heads, but I'm sure that was because he was itching to get out of Golden State, and I don't blame Draymond for that, to break up that family of him, Clay, and Steph. But KD's a great basketball player. Great. Really good. Really good. So we'll see what happens down in Jersey, but he's more of a team guy. Harden's not, in my opinion. And he hasn't shown it. So the facts are out there on the games that you watch. It's out there. Giannis Antetokounmpo. Everybody had high hopes. No longer high hopes. He has signed his 5-year Supermax extension today. I had high hopes that maybe he'd go to the Celtics. I know that they were relatively small because everybody's either going to go to South Beach or one of the 2 LA teams in New York. I mean, that's where players are going. But kudos to him. Kudos to him for sticking with the organization, even though it is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Kudos to him for staying with the team. I guess you could say. I mean, he's getting the money, loyalty. Bucks have had some great franchises in the past, and he's the man that can step up and do it. You just got to get him the right parts. And you know what? Maybe if they don't move forward this year from where they're at, you can have great season all year long. And when you go into playoffs and you get beat, you got to start looking at the coach too. You have to. Right? Bullholzer, you have to take a look at him. So we'll see where that goes. But the Lakers, again, are the heavy favorites, and they should be. They added a lot of good pieces this year. They're going to have much better synergy this year playing, they just got better and better as time went along last year, especially down in that bubble. They got better and better. And that's going to be, only health stands in the way, in my opinion, because I don't see anybody, unless all of a sudden LeBron drops off the ledge, which he won't. He puts in a lot of work, a lot of effort. He's a very aware player like Brady, and doesn't want to be embarrassed. He's still got good 1 or 2 years left in the tank. Great, and this is the one thing, and I knock him for his on-court stuff, guys. You've heard me knock him. That's the only thing that, for whatever reason, it rubs me. Just does. Because I'm more of a Bird, Jordan, Magic, Kobe, especially Kobe guy, which is come in, do the job, and I don't need to celebrate and pant to the crowd after every basket. I'm not into that. I'm a little celebration. You can pump the arm and stuff like that, or if you get a big shot at the end. But not after every goddamn hoop. I mean, he gets a little. That's where, and I think he slowed down doing it. But outside of that, he does a lot for the community, does a lot for causes. He backs what he says when he's going to do things and speaks up when he has a viewpoint on stuff. Whether you like his side of the argument or not, doesn't matter. He does it, and there's going to come a degree of stuff that's going to come back at him. But overall, I think he handles it well. But he's a team player. He makes everybody better. I started to think about the teams he's gone to, and I'm like, well, you got to build your teams. But the team he's still the key player on that team. And he makes everybody better. He just doesn't walk onto a team like I said, James Harden, give me the ball and let me do my thing. LeBron wants to make everybody better. When we talk about clutch shots, I bagged on him too. But here's the one thing I will say. When you draw the attention that a LeBron James does, if you got somebody wide open under the damn hoop or just a little bit closer in who's hot that night, he's probably made a lot of the right decisions. Probably just has. I mean, that's all there is to it. And there's nothing wrong with his first few, 5, 6, 7 years. He finally got out of the hump and had the confidence. Now forget it. I mean, he can do and take shots from any point on the court he wants. So Lakers, heavy favorites. They still got Milwaukee up in the East. They're still not doing it for me. They got the Nets up there. Toronto. The East is tough now. The East is tough. You got Boston. You got Philly. I think Philly's going to be tough with Doc Rivers. I wouldn't make any moves for James Harden to screw that team up. Doc's got the team right where he needs it. He'll have the ear of he's got the credibility. He'll have the ear of Simmons and Embiid. Trust me. So that's a good. That team lacked a coach to push some of these guys when they were dogging it, and a teacher. Doc is great drawing up plays in critical situations. That's a big add. A big add that some might be overlooking with that Philly team is the addition of Doc Rivers. Watch out for that. As I close out this week, I've been waiting for Canelo Alvarez to come back to the fight game for well over a year and a half, but he was tied up in litigation with Oscar De La Hoya, who had him under contract, who was basically screwing Canelo out of money and his whole camp. And I'm not surprised. I used to be a big De La Hoya fan until I heard how he runs business and he's shady. And you know me, I'm pro Dana White. You can call me biased all you want, but he's transparent. He calls it the way he sees it. And he says, Oscar's as shady as Bob Arum. And what is that? That tells you plenty right there, in my opinion. And obviously he ended up being right because, you got a great guy under your agency, so to speak, right? Your promotion company in Canelo, and you screwed him. You screwed up your best piece, your best product, right? So he's out, and now he'll be fighting Callum Smith Saturday night, which is the 19th. I better remember that night because my oldest daughter, Madison's birthday is on Friday, the 18th, and she'll be turning 18. So quick shout out to my daughter, quick early happy birthday, and I'm sure I'll bring it up on next week's show. But excuse me, Callum Smith, San Antonio, Texas, Saturday night, and then on Friday night, Triple G is back in the ring, and he's fighting out of Hollywood, Florida. So we get a couple good fights coming up this weekend on the 18th and the 19th. So watch for that. I know it was I wasn't able to catch it all. I know I was watching Shakur Stevenson box Saturday night, but I was out, and with the time I got home, I just made a choice. I'm just going to stick with the box, and then I go with the UFC event. But I know I missed a great card, and I know that the main event was amazing, and I only saw highlights of it. And my cousin Mikey G had texted me, wanted to know if I watched it. I said, believe it or not, I missed it. Of all the things I missed, I finally missed a damn good fight like that, and I think Dana's going to set up a rematch. UFC back on schedule as well for this weekend. Anything else that you've watched, tweet me at R1Bolt55. Tweet me at R1Bolt55. Hoping it's I want to get to that bridge and get myself into 2021. I got a nice list of guests lined up. I'm still trying to schedule some for early January and February after the new year. I want to get one in between now and Christmas. So I'm going to see if I can pull that off. So if I have a guest next week, it could be a surprise, and then you won't have me. And then Christmas week, I'm sure I'm just going to go solo. But again, any thoughts and ideas on anything I discussed today, tweet me at R1Bolt55. And Please always, I appreciate all the listens, all the watches on YouTube. My views are going up. Just whenever you're on there, please do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, whether you're on a podcast platform or on my YouTube station, because I continue to build, improve that brand out there, and have changed some things up on the landscape of the page. So check it out, hit that subscribe button, and I appreciate all the support from all of you who have been on my show and then continue to support and listen to the show on a week-to-week basis. I really appreciate it. But what have you watched? Other than football, I haven't. The only thing I'm really sticking to, and I mentioned last week, is Ghost, which is a spinoff of Power. Fantastic. They're on episode number 2, which I haven't seen yet. Hoping to watch that tonight. And, I keep bragging about The Challenge. It did not disappoint opening night last Wednesday. Fantastic show. Fantastic. There's a girl on there from Survivor who actually supports what I say on the show all the time. It's like Survivor on steroids with the challenges that they have to do. Amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. If you want to, check that out Wednesday nights on MTV. Great cast, great group of athletes. They're all part of the reality world, if you will, but they're all from different places now where they've done the real world, Big Brother, Survivor, some shows over in England, The Bachelorette, Lilo Jones, the track star, she's on it. So great show. Challenge Double Agents. Catch it on Wednesday night. So with that, everyone, once again, thanks for joining number 44. Again, please listen to me on your podcast platform. Please also come visit me and watch this episode as well. One of my first solo episodes in which I am going to be going on YouTube with this one. And I'm going to close out this week's show with Godsmack, Blast from the Past, Bulletproof, which is a recent song of theirs over from 2018, 2019. But be good, be safe. Continue to stay safe and do all the right things as we bridge over to 2021. And we will see you all next week. So once again, Godsmack, Bulletproof. And with that, guys and gals, I am officially out. Peace, love, God bless.